I didn't leave my job because I was unhappy, and I didn't leave because I was forced out. I left because I trusted someone enough to believe that working together would be good for my future and good for my family. He wasn't just offering me a position. He was offering reassurance, stability, and the comfort of familiarity that comes when business and friendship overlap. He was my friend long before he was my boss. We had known each other for years, shared meals, celebrated milestones, and talked about ambition the way men do when they believe they are building something lasting. When he suggested I come work with him, it felt like loyalty being rewarded rather than a risk being taken. At the same time, my marriage felt solid. My wife and I had been married for 4 years, and although life wasn't perfect, it was predictable enough to feel safe. We had routines, shared responsibilities, and the quiet confidence that comes when you assume the most important parts of your life are secure. What I didn't know was that while our marriage was 4 years old, the relationship between my wife and my friend had already lasted 6. Long before the wedding, long before the vows, long before I trusted him with my career. I didn't discover the truth through a confession or an argument. There was no warning, no build-up, and no moment where I felt something was wrong beforehand. I found out by accident, on an evening that started like any other and ended with my entire understanding of my life quietly collapsing. My wife was in the shower, and her phone was on the kitchen counter, lighting up repeatedly with notifications. I picked it up without suspicion, assuming it was something practical, possibly related to the kids or a reminder she had missed earlier in the day. The message preview appeared on the screen, and before I could even process the words fully, I recognized the tone. It wasn't explicit, but it carried a familiarity that didn't belong to colleagues or casual friends. It was the kind of ease that only exists when two people have crossed lines long ago and stopped pretending otherwise. The name attached to the message belonged to my boss. It also belonged to my friend. I unlocked the phone, not out of curiosity, but out of a strange automatic need to understand what my instincts were already reacting to. What I saw wasn't a single mistake or an emotional slip that could be isolated and explained away. It was years of conversations, photos, shared language, and careful coordination that revealed a relationship running quietly alongside my marriage. 6 years. They hadn't even tried to hide the timeline. I remember sitting down slowly, the phone still in my hand, feeling as though the room had shifted without moving. My heart wasn't racing, but it felt heavy, as though something had settled there permanently the moment I understood what I was seeing. When my wife came out of the bathroom, wrapped in a towel and talking casually about something she had forgotten to do earlier, I realized I was looking at her differently. She didn't notice, or if she did, she didn't say anything, and I didn't know yet how to speak into a reality that had changed without my consent. I didn't confront her that night, or the next morning, or even the following week. Instead, I moved through our days carefully, listening more than speaking, watching more than reacting, trying to understand how someone could live 2 lives so seamlessly that neither seemed to disrupt the other. At work, everything felt contaminated. Conversations with colleagues carried an edge I couldn't explain, and meetings felt heavier, because I now knew how deeply my personal life had been entangled with my professional one. Every memory involving my friend began to replay itself differently, as though someone had altered the context after the fact. When the truth eventually came out beyond me, it didn't explode publicly, but it moved quickly enough to force decisions. My friend resigned from his position shortly after the situation became known, choosing distance over accountability and leaving behind a silence that felt almost deliberate. He walked away from the company, and from me, with far less visible damage than I was left carrying. I stayed. I stayed in the job, in the marriage, and in the space between knowing and deciding, even though nothing felt stable anymore. People asked if I was okay, and I told them I was tired, because exhaustion was easier to explain than betrayal layered across every part of my life. What hurt most wasn't just the affair itself, but the depth of the deception. This wasn't a moment of weakness or a lapse in judgment. It was a parallel relationship that existed before I committed my life to my wife and continued quietly alongside our marriage without hesitation. I began questioning everything retroactively, wondering which memories were genuine and which had been shaped around secrets I never knew existed. I replayed conversations, dinners, holidays, and moments of trust, trying to identify where the truth had been hiding in plain sight. Some nights I imagined confronting her, demanding explanations and answers that might not even bring clarity. Other nights I considered leaving quietly, without drama or closure, simply because staying felt heavier than walking away. Most nights, however, I did nothing, because knowing what to do and being ready to do it are not the same thing. The boss was gone, removed from daily life, while my wife remained beside me, moving through routines as though nothing fundamental had changed. That contrast made everything harder, because the person who had violated my trust professionally had already exited the scene, while the person who had violated it personally was still present in every part of my life. I don't know yet if there's a way forward, or what recovery would even look like in a situation where the foundation was compromised long before it was built. What I do know is that betrayal doesn't always arrive loudly, and it doesn't always demand immediate action. Sometimes it settles quietly, reshaping how you see people, work, and even yourself, while the rest of the world carries on unaware. And sometimes, the hardest part isn't deciding whether to stay or leave, but learning how to live in the space where certainty no longer exists.